Like I said, my name is Nat, and I have been doing JavaScript for about 2 years now. I went to a coding boot camp in 2018, and that's where I started learning it. Before that, I didn't have any really exposure to it, so I picked it up relatively quickly. But I guess I'm just curious. Like, my goal for this presentation is to make it like interactive. As I mean, I'm not an expert in this, and even if I was an expert, there's no way that I can teach JavaScript in 30 minutes. So my main goal is to have fun, to kind of give you, expand your imagination about what JavaScript is, what it can do, what you can do with it, and get to know you guys a little better as well. So why don't we if I think I heard you guys have done some things with Java before. Like, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you know about programming and what your experience has been so far? Does that sound cool?
Mac, why don't you start?
Start with what?
Have you done anything with programming before?
Yeah, I've done Python, and Java and HTML.
Full screen.
Nice. Okay, because I've
And
done.
JMaker language.
You did a what kind of language?
JMaker language.
Okay, I don't think I haven't done anything with that before, and I haven't even done anything with Java. Like, that's cool that you've done that. JavaScript, it sounds similar to Java, but there's a lot of things that are different about it too. But the one thing I've learned is that even like Python is pretty similar to JavaScript. There's not the kind of like the fundamental things that make up programming are pretty much the same. They just usually have different names. So the first thing I'm glad you said HTML. Has any of you other guys, have you done anything with HTML before?
Yes.
You have. Okay. What have you done? What have you done?
I've made web pages.
Wow. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I've done that too.
And JavaScript, don't you write JavaScript in HTML too?
Pretty much, yeah. You use JavaScript in HTML. Kind of JavaScript and HTML are basically what creates websites. So HTML is like, kind of like what you see, like all the, the words and the pictures is all stuck in that HTML.
Fonts.
And then you use JavaScript for stuff like, when I click on a button and I want to see a little animation, that's JavaScript running, making that happen. Or like a video game, like there's a lot of little games you can play online. Almost all of those are made with JavaScript. So that's really cool. So that's basically, like I said, my goal for this this time together is just to kind of play around with some things, show you how to kind of look at web pages, how to use JavaScript on the internet. The cool thing with JavaScript is that all you need to use it is a web browser. So if you have Google Chrome or Safari or whatever you use, that's all you need. Like Python, Java, like all of that you have to download stuff, you have to run it on your computer. It's a little less accessible. So for example, I'm just going to go to your page here. And for anyone watching this later on YouTube, I want you to follow along. So what we're going to do is, if you see my little mouse here, I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to inspect it. And then that brings up this thing called
You need to share your screen.
Yeah, we can't see your screen.
I'm glad you stopped me. Let me get back to Zoom. How do I? Oh wait, there we go. All right, now what do you see? Can you see your YouTube page?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we supposed to follow you?
No, you don't have to. You can just watch if you want. But definitely leave your mics unmuted. Just interrupt me anytime you want. So let's jump into this. Oops. Oh wait, no, I didn't.
Oh, you subscribed.
I did. I ruined my my moment, because what I want to do is that, and this is why I'm starting here, because everyone should subscribe to your channel. By the way, it's really cool. I really like what you're doing. But if you right-click on the subscribe button and you inspect it, it pulls up this thing called, it looks really confusing, right? But this is all the HTML of the page. So what we're going to do is that this button right here is this highlighted portion here. And we're going to find something called a class. And we're going to copy that class name. And then we're going to go to the console. And the console is where you can basically run your JavaScript and interact with the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this method called document.getElements by class name. And then we pass in the name of that subscribe button. And then we did the first index. And then we run this thing called .click. And if I do that, look at that. It did it magically. I didn't push that button. So everyone watching this, go.
How can you make it unsubscribe without touching it?
Ooh, okay. Well, how do you think? Do you have any ideas?
I have
Do the
one.
exact opposite of that.
Oh,
I think you,
Unclick.
right. I think you're right. I think I would just have to click it again. So let's test your theory. Now, so yeah, I'm going to do the exact same thing. And look at that. You're right. It worked. So now it didn't do it automatically. It put up a little thing that says, "Are you sure you want to unsubscribe?" So then if I
Don't
hit
click
that,
it. Make it click you. Make it click it.
make it click unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I unsubscribe. Well, I mean, it popped up the warning. So now we have to find out what this button is called. So now we inspect it, and we find that we look for that class, and I just double click. I'm just double clicking on this, and it selects this whole long. You don't even have to read this. It's so confusing, right? Because you see all these words, all this crazy stuff. I don't even read half of it. Eventually you'll just kind of find what to look for. And so then we're going to do the same thing. The cool thing in the console is if I hit the up arrow, it pulls up the last command that I did. So I'm just going to move over here, and then I'm going to select this class name, and I'm going to paste this new class name in, and then I'm going to click it. And there we go. It says subscription removed. So theoretically, you could write like a whole little like program, say like click this, then click that, then write this, and you could basically do whatever you wanted on the page. So that's really cool. And of course, the other thing is like, I could go in to any part of this page, and I can write whatever I want, and it changes it. Now, I mean, this kind of blew my mind, like when I was like learning about websites, because I was like, how did I just change YouTube? Like what? Am I going to get arrested? But
Can you reload the page and see what happens?
Oh yeah, so you guys are too smart. You're too smart. Dang it. Yep, you're exactly right. So once I reload the page, it goes back to YouTube, and it says, send me that web page again. So basically everything that I have here is just a copy. It's a copy of their page that's sitting on the computer somewhere out in who knows where. So yeah, so if you reload it, it's all gone, and you have to start from scratch. But there are kind of cool things that you can do even with that, even with the fact that it's reloading. So one thing I was thinking of doing is I was on this page, and I don't actually play a lot of games, but this is epicgames.com, and they're selling like a bunch of like discounted games. These are all for sale, okay? So I was looking at this, and I was just kind of thinking about, what if I wanted to buy a game for like super cheap, right? Because I mean, look at this. This one's like 30 bucks. This one's 26 bucks. This is 30 bucks. And in order to find a good game, I would have to scroll through this entire thing and, you know, find like the cheapest games. So what I was thinking is like, okay, what if we took all those games and we sorted them kind of like you can do on Amazon or eBay or whatever, by the cheapest to the most expensive. And this is the crazy thing, okay, like with a website, is that, you know, they send us that copy of that website. They send us all this data, and then we use our computer to basically, you know, show it all, right? And this is like everything here is on our computer. We can do whatever we want with it. So let's just start playing around. So I'm going to, the first thing we're going to do, okay, before I get carried away, I heard a really good quote recently, and they said, websites are just forms and lists. So pretty much every website is just a list of different things, and then, you know, a few different forms, which is like, you know, my, you know, like being able to like just type in something, right? Like typing in a name, typing in, and then sending that to a, you know, a website, and then they'll send you back information. So if we look at all these games, this is just one big list. And if I inspect it, so I right click on it and I inspect it. And now we need to find like all these things called divs. This is HTML now that we're looking at, right? All these things called divs are just boxes. They're just boxes within boxes within boxes. And so we need to find the box that is like the biggest box surrounding that game. Okay, so if I put my mouse on this thing, the whole box is highlighted. See that? Like all the games. So that's the box that's holding all of the games. But this box right here is just one game. And here's another one, and here's another one, and here's another one. So this is the div that we want to look at. So I'm going to go in just like we did on YouTube. I'm going to go in and I'm going to get this class name. And then I'm going to go back to my console, and now I'm going to start writing JavaScript. And like I said, don't feel like you have to memorize anything. Don't feel, you know, interrupt me if you have questions. But I'm just going to kind of run through this and kind of show you how I use JavaScript to start moving things around. So the first thing we have to do is create a variable. So I'm going to create a variable called games. There we go. And so I write let, and then I do a space, and then the name of the variable, and then I'm going to do that document dot get element by class name, and then I paste the class name in there. Okay, and then it returns an array. So then I do that. No, I want to get all of them, right? Okay, so now the cool thing with the console here, if I just write the variable name again, it will show all of those different divs that are each individual games. And you can think of a variable as just like I mean, if you've done programming, you know what a variable is, but it's just like a little container to hold some value, right? A number, a word, or in this case, like a whole list of items. So if I do games.length, that shows me it's 141. So that means like even without counting it, I mean, even that's kind of cool, right? Like there we go. Now we know there's 141 games on this page without even counting them. So that's kind of cool. And that's also a lot of games to look through if I'm looking for the cheapest one. So now we have the games list, and in JavaScript we call a list of items an array. So we have this array of items. So if I do games 0, okay, now I don't know if you've done programming, what you'll also have learned that the first item in a list is it's called the 0. It's the 0 index. For some reason, programming starts with, instead of starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it starts with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this game right here, this control game, that is number 0. And here we go. So if I do game 0, it highlights it if I put my mouse on top. So we can do some cool stuff here. We can do game 0, and then we want to get inside the well, actually, yeah, I'm getting too far ahead, because what do we want to do, right? We want to find what we want to sort them by the price, right? So what do we need next? You guys have any ideas?
A way to sort the games.
By price. Yep. So we found like each individual game here, but what piece of information do we need now? I'm probably
How much
all
it
of them they
costs.
cost.
yeah, there you
all
go.
of them
Yeah,
cost.
it's not a trick question. And here's my face, by the way. So yeah, it's not a trick question. This is just, you're exactly right. We need to know how much it costs so that we can compare those prices, right? So we're going to go in here now, and we're going to right click on that price, and we're going to inspect it. And now we have 2 different prices. So which one do we want? So there's one that says $59.99 and one that says $29.99. The $59.99 one is like the original price, right? So we're going to take this one, and then we're going to go back here, and then instead of doing document.getElement by class names, which, you know, it finds all of them, and like the document is basically just your web page, right, that you're looking at. It's called the document. But if we do games, so I'm going to create a new variable called first game. No, I'm going to call it control game, because that's what it's called. And that's the first game of my games array. And then if I do control game dot get elements by class name, and I pass in the price original class name and 0. Okay, so see what happened? We have the span now, and inside that is $29.99. So we're getting close. So now we're going to do this cool little thing called, and ooh, you know what? I just forgot. While I'm writing it in the console here, I'm going to keep track of it just in my notepad here, just in case we need to run this code again. And that's the cool thing. Like when I was starting out, like I thought you needed all this fancy stuff for writing code, but no, it's just you could use like Word, you can use text edit. You do not have to get fancy at all. So I'm going to copy that one in too. And now I'm going to create a variable called price. And then we're going to go inside control game, and we're going to say, what is the inner text? And that is a property of HTML, the inner text. And now if I write price, oop, no, I made a mistake. Where did I make my mistake? Oh, because I was looking. So what I did instead is I got all the text from the entire div that the game's in, instead of just the price. So what we need to do is call that price variable this right here. Now if I do price, oh, sorry, no, I gotta do inner text. Okay, so now we're at $29.99. Now this is, do you guys know what the difference between a string and a number is? or other data
Yes.
types?
Int can only hold numbers. A string can hold numbers and letters.
There you go. Exactly. So what we're dealing with here is a string. You can tell that because it's in these little quotation marks, and also because it's got, you know, a $sign and a period. So what we need to do is turn that string, we need to turn that string into an integer or a number. So we're
I
gonna do
call it
that.
an int.
An int? Okay, yeah, I like that. That's good. That's short for integer. So we'll call them ints. So we'll say let price int equal price. And now we're going to do this. It's like a method on price that's just built into JavaScript, and it's called replace. And a method is just, you know, you've probably done this in Java, but it's basically just a little bit of code that you can run that's already pre-written for you. So what this is going to do is that I'm going to say, take all the $signs and replace them with nothing. So I just do like nothing. I do 2 quotation marks, so that's like nothing, right? It's not going to be a space. It's just going to be, it's going to squeeze it all together. So then if I do that, price int is now 29.99. It's still a string, but it's a lot closer. Okay, so now we're just going to try that again, and we're going to tag on another method. And you can put on as many of these as you want using that little period. So we'll say replace all the periods with nothing. And now we check it. Great, look at that, 2999. So that's perfect, right? Because that's 2,000
That's 2,999
cents. Exactly. Right. So that works. That we can turn
We
that.
just converted it into cents.
Right, which is fine, right? I mean, because if they're all cents, then we can still see which is the bigger or more expensive one, right? So now, but you see those quotation marks there? If I try to do price int plus, give me a number. What's a number?
800.
800. Okay. Look what happened. It didn't add it together. It just squeezed it together into a string, like just made one big word out of it.
I think 800 has to be in quotations.
Close, right? So they have to be we call that types, right? They have to be the same type, and in this case, they have to be the type of an integer. So we're gonna try this price int one more time, and we're gonna say let price real int equals, and then we'll use this special JavaScript thing called parse int, and we'll pass in price int to that function. Methods and functions are pretty much the same thing. And then we'll check out price real int. And now look at that, 2,999, and there's no quotation marks. So if we do real price int plus 800, it now says 300 or 3,799. So we did it. Great. So now we know we can go inside here. Oh yeah, look at that. We can go inside here, we can get that number, we can take out all the little pieces we don't want, we can turn it into 2,999 cents. But now the question is, okay, we did that for one game, so what, right? We need to do that for every single one of these games, and that's 141. So that's going to take us a long time to write that, right? Like we're going to be sitting here for hours writing that code. So does anyone have a better idea of how we could do that?
Put it in a repeat loop.
There, exactly. We are going to create a loop. And this is one of the best things about programming is that you can do.
And then do game plus plus.
You know what? You're pretty much writing the code right now. This is great. Yeah, it's going to be. We're going to have to they call that like iterating through that loop. So the way we do that in JavaScript is we're going to create a loop and we say for, and then we create a variable called like index, or you can call it, a lot of times they say I, you can be whatever you want, but it's basically like the position you are in the loop. So if we have 141 items, how many times do we need to loop through it?
141.
Exactly. So
We
we're gonna,
already did one of them. So actually 140 left.
but it, right. But we're gonna pretend that we didn't write that code beforehand, and we're gonna start from 0 again. So we'll do 141. So I start at 0 here, and then I say, while index is less than, and then I could either write 141, or I could say games.length, which is, we already saw was 141. And then I will do, like you were saying, I plus, or index plus plus.
Wait, when you're doing a semicolon, doesn't it tell it to go to the next line?
It can. Semicolons, you're right. Semicolons are what we use in JavaScript to like basically chop up the code and say, it could either be a new line, or it could just be like, do all the stuff, before the semicolon and then do the next thing. So theoretically, and this is the crazy thing, like you could write all of your code in one line. It's not like Python, like you actually have to do new lines, right? But JavaScript, you could do like the entire thing in one line as long as you had those semicolons basically saying, do it on another line. So like this, I could do it like that if I wanted to. But this is just kind of the standard way people do it. So let me, actually, I just forgot that I'm trying to keep track of this code that we're writing, because we're basically writing a program. We're writing a little program. This is what programs are. Programs are just a bunch of code that you can run whenever you want. So that control game, so I want to get the price here. So I'm going to paste that in there, and you reminded me to put my semicolons on there, so I just did that. And then we want to do the price and turn it into an integer. Okay, sweet. Now we're good. Okay, so now I'm going to go inside my for loop here. And whatever I write inside here is going to be done 141 times. So does anyone have an idea where to start?
0.
Right, exactly. But basically we can take this code that we've been writing for that one item, and we can just paste it right into the new one, or into the loop. So I'm going to put that in here. I'm going to paste that in here. Uh-oh, what did I do? Okay. And then I'm going to make sure that I have my, I'm going to have to change a few of the variables, because instead of saying document.get class name here, I don't need that. I already have games. And instead of saying control game, I'll say current game, because we'll run through this 141 times. And then instead of 0, I'll just say whatever the index is, right? So if we're on the 10th one, it'll say 10, and it'll get that game. And then what I'm going to do down here, I'm going to console log, and this is kind of like printing in Java or Python, and that'll just print out whatever that variable is, in which case I just want to see the price. So, okay, so it ran through it. Look at that. It ran through it 141 times, but it said 2999 every single time. Does anyone see what mistake I made? Let's see. Where's I made some terrible mistake. Oh, okay. So what I did is that when I got the price right here, I was looking inside control game, which is, stayed the same the entire time. So instead I need the current game. So I put the current game down there instead. And then that will change every single time the loop runs. So now when I do it, look at that. Here are all the prices of all the games in the entire page. Does that make sense?
Could you make it do that and show the name of the game?
Yeah.
And make it least to greatest.
Right. So yeah, why don't we try to do that since we're kind of running out of time here? Why don't we try to make it least to greatest? Because right now you can tell these are just all random. They're just jumbled up. And the whole point of this was to try to like switch them around. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to put it over in my program that I'm running. Since we don't need that. So there's my for loop. And I can just put little spaces. Spaces don't really matter in JavaScript. It's not like Python, but it still makes it look nicer and easier to read. So I put those back there. And now I'm going to delete this, and we're going to have to put everything, when we're looping through here, we're going to grab those, we're going to grab the numbers or the prices, and we're going to put them into a new array. And I'll just write that quickly here because, or I'm just going to create a new variable. And we'll call this games with prices. And we'll just do these two bracket things, which is an empty array, just signifying that this is going to be filled with items. So now when I do my loop, instead of putting them in here, or well, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new object. And this is an object is kind of like an array in JavaScript, except you can put, it's a little more complicated. But I will create a thing called game object, and that is going to have a key, which is kind of like how we can look it up. We'll call it game div, and then that will be the current game. And then I do a comma, and I can add a new one in, and I messed that up. You actually have to do a colon. So it's like a variable kind of, except it's inside an object. And then I'll do one called game price. And then we'll put that as the price. And then I'm going to take this object and I'm going to do this thing called pushing, which basically will fill this games with prices array with every single one of those objects. And whenever we call a function like push, you can pass in an argument, which is whatever data that you want to send to that function. So in this case, a game object. So I'll pass that in. There we go. So I just ran that 141 times. I'm going to update my program here. And now if we look at games with prices, the length is 141. So this is where it gets a little confusing. So don't feel bad if you can't follow along. I'm still confused too. So I've been doing JavaScript for 2 years, and I still am trying to learn how to do it. All right, so we have games with prices. Now we want to we'll do another thing called, or another array method called games, or, oops, sorry. And this is basically another built-in thing in JavaScript so that we don't have to write all this code, and it's going to sort it. And we'll just pass in this function, and it has 2 arguments. And we basically are going to say if so A and B are 2 different games. So it's going to take 2 different games at a time, and it's going to compare the prices. And it's going to find out which one has the lowest and highest price. And it'll do that by subtracting them. And I don't even know how this works completely. So like I said, don't feel bad if you don't understand this part. Games with prices dot sort. And now it did that. And now we have a whole bunch of arrays, or this huge array. And now if you look at this, here's the numbers. That's 2999. Okay, I don't think I did it right. Oh no. I may have written this wrong. So let's check the first. Okay, so it did not work. So my code is wrong. So this is where, like, people joke about, you know, programmers just Googling stuff, but it's actually true. Like, most of what I do is just is Googling things that I don't know. So a good website to go to is this mozilla.org, developer.mozilla.org. And they have a lot of great information on JavaScript. So I'm going to go down, I'm going to find, they have a lot of examples here. So, okay, so I've whenever you do a function, so this is a function and it passes in these two arguments, you can return a value. You need to return something. And that's what I forgot to do. I forgot to return it. So now I go back and I'm going to try rewriting that again. And I'm going to say return. So return these two numbers subtracted. And now if I look inside this giant array, now look at this, 149, 239, 249, 249, 299. Do you see a pattern there? You see what it's doing?
Yeah, now this I make it so it shows you which game it is that costs that much.
Right.
Because you know it costs that much, except you don't know which game does. So it doesn't save you much work because you don't know which game, but you know it doesn't cost.
Exactly. Right. That's a great point. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We gotta flip this around. And let's see. I'm just going to. I was trying to do this earlier, and let me see if I can just go look at that code I was working on, because what we want to do is basically take everything in here, all these games, and we want to switch them around. So first, let me. I'm just going to copy this back to this, because we know that works. And then we're going to do, and this is not really JavaScript, so I'm just going to cheat and take what I originally did before. So we're going to create a new HTML element, which is basically going to take this, take the game, all these, you know, the container that all these games are in, and it's going to create a new one. And then we're going to put in, we're going to change the class name. So you can take an HTML element and you can change the class name to whatever you want. So this is the same class name as the container. And now I'm going to do another loop. So in this loop, we have, we're going to go through games with prices. So that's still 141. And then we're going to add all of the cards, all the game cards that are now in the new order. We're going to add that to our new list that we created. Now we call this game name, or we call it game div. And it's games with prices. So if we did that, okay, so we just ran that and it deleted everything. So this is what you call in when you're programming. This is a bug. So if we go in here and we can, I'm looking at my older code. It's a little different than my new code that I wrote today. So what we need to do here, oh, right, okay, so that's that. Replace with new game container. I don't think I did that. So let me I'm gonna just change this here. Okay, now this is the amazing thing with like JavaScript. So I have like this code that I wrote. I just reloaded the page, so everything's changed. And I go in here, I can clear the console, so just it gives me a blank page. And then I paste in all that code we've been working on. And now I'm just going to run this. Uh-oh, I have an invalid token. So sometimes, like if you leave off like one of those little curly braces, or you leave off like a semicolon, you can run into issues like this. So let's just try. Let me just do this instead. So I'm going to copy that, clear that. Okay, why is that not working? Oh, maybe because of this. So games with prices. I need to do games with prices equals an array. And now I have all my sorted games. And then I think if I go in here, I can do this. All right, so a lot of these errors now I'm running into they're not really JavaScript related, they're more related to like HTML. So let's see, document.create. So I'm creating a new list, and then I'm calling it this class name. And then I'm trying to pen the child, the game price. And then I'm replacing that. Let me just check this. I'm inspecting the element. And I want to find where is this list right here. So I'm copying this class name, and I'm just seeing if that's the right class name for that list. Okay, that's right. So that's not working there. Let me just try running this. Okay, and so what I did here is that I put everything inside a function, and I call it sort by cheapest. And if I run sort by cheapest here with these two parentheses, it ran through all that code we were writing plus a little extra that we didn't have time to get into. And now check it out. Do you see the prices? So we have this entire thing now has been sorted from the cheapest to the most expensive. So yeah, that's, I mean, and this is great too, because you gotta see me get in over my head and forget what I was doing, which happens every day when you're doing programming. This is part of the job. So here's everything is switched around on the page. Now, what do you think is going to happen if I reload it?
It's gonna go back to its normal state.
That's right. Yep. So, or even if I like click on one of these games and I go to the page and then I go back, everything is back to how it was, which can be really frustrating, right? But because I put all that code into a function, which is basically just like a mini program, because I put all that code into a function, I can just type in sort by cheapest, and I can call that, and then bam, the entire page is back to how we want it. So there you go. I mean, that's what gets me excited about JavaScript. JavaScript is a way of accessing the web, changing the web, moving data around. You can do things, you can build websites with it, you can build games with it. It's just, there's so many cool things you can do, and it's anyone that has a computer with a browser can do it. So I hope that kind of taught you a few things and inspired your imagination about what you could do with JavaScript. So any questions?
Yeah. You changed the website. But did you change it for everybody, or did you just change it on your computer?
That is a great question. And that's, like when I was starting out, like I just assumed I was changing it for everyone.
He
But
changed it until for him only until he reloaded the page.
right. So I changed it just on my computer. So if you had gone to that same website, it would have looked how it did before.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's a great question. Is that if I could just change the website, that's like when you hear about people like hacking, like that's what hacking is actually doing. Like they're going in and they're trying to change like someone else's code that's being sent to them from a different computer. So like when you go to the internet, like all that information is coming from a different computer being sent to your computer, and your computer looks at it all and then basically builds that website that you actually are looking at. But then like you said, as soon as you hit the reload button, it goes and gets all the data again. So yeah, it was just changing it for me. And have any of you guys played like Fortnite or like a multiplayer game like that?
I
Played Fortnite.
Have
Awesome.
you?
Okay. So the thing with that is I've never actually played Fortnite. No, I did. I played like one game and I got killed immediately. So
Yeah, I did that. That happened to me too when I first started playing Fortnite.
so right, and that's kind of like coding too, right? I mean, anything we do at the beginning, like we're gonna be terrible at, but if you do it enough, you'll get really good. So, but that's the same thing with Fortnite. It's like you could have like all that information, like where the enemies are, like who you're shooting at. That's all being sent to you from the internet, and then your computer is actually building all like the 3D graphics and everything. So you could have one person with like an older version of Fortnite playing someone that has a newer version of Fortnite, and they'll look different depending on which computer you're looking at, even though the people and all like the information will be in the same place. Does that kind of make sense? So
Yes.
any other questions?
Have you ever changed a website permanently?
I have, yeah. That's actually, I mean, my job is building a website. I work for a company called Cox Automotive, and they build these giant websites, kind of like eBay and Amazon for selling cars. So I'm currently working on that. Like we build all the little buttons and different things.
Can you sell cars on Amazon?
I don't think you can sell them on Amazon, but I've never tried. But then I've also built like websites just for myself too. Like I've built like little games. I've built. It's actually I would say like if you're interested in learning about it, there's a place called Free Code Camp, and they have like a bunch of really good lessons. They'll teach you about HTML, and they'll teach you about JavaScript, and get you building like little websites. So that's a good place to start.
Could you show us your favorite game that you made?
Yeah, I had a game. I think it might. I don't know if it's working anymore, but let me check.
I made a Flappy Bird game.
Oh, flat. I've never made.
Really, Mac? You made a Flappy Bird? Can you show us?
I haven't made a Flappy Bird game. Here's a game I made.
Lex, I'll take a video of it and send it to you.
Can you send me the link? I want to play it.
That's awesome. That's
Am I able to play it?
Lex, it's not online yet.
Yeah, no, but can you send me the link when it's online?
It's in Game Maker.
Can you send me the link when it's online?
Probably. Oh, that's it. Oh, did you make that game?
Yeah, this game right here I made, and basically we just got like these random pictures of dogs, and then we figured out a way of chopping them up like a puzzle, and then you have to go in and you have to click them and like move them around, before the timer goes off. So that was a really fun game. That was like, I love making games. Games is like
And you
is
get less time
definitely one of my
every
favorite
single
parts.
time. Every single time you do it, you get less time to do the next.
Right. So it's like, see the timer's going down, and if you solve it before the timer goes down, then you get like another life. It gives you another life, and you can keep playing. See, it's 1 second, and then I went down to 0 and I lost. And then it tells you how many times you solved it. So it was a fun game. I made that in boot camp, and I had everyone playing it. And you know, the crazy thing, like when you build a game, you are actually it's like it's so cool to like see other people playing it, right? Like there was one guy in my class, and he was playing it, and he was like better than anyone else. Like he was better than I was, and I made the game. Like he got the high score. So it was really cool. It's cool to be able to build something and then send it. So like your Flappy Bird game, you can send that to all your friends, and they can play it.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome? That's so. I mean, that's what I love about coding.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions about me or what I do or coding or what to learn? I just want to say I think it's really cool that all of you guys have had experience with like doing this stuff, because like when I was your age, I didn't start coding till like 2 years ago. So you are going to be like way ahead of everyone else. This is really awesome. It's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, and like I said, like it's just like Fortnite. Like if you start doing it now, it's going to be so easy like down the road.
Last opportunity for
Oh,
questions.
I have a question.
Yeah. What is it?
Would game.earn be a JavaScript command?
Game.n.
Game.earn.
Earn. E-A-R-N.
And then brackets the amount you want.
Game.earn. They have an
Oh.
accent. Game.earn is what you said.
Game.earn. Oh yeah, that's Are you thinking of like Cookie Clicker? Is that what you're
Yeah.
thinking? Yeah, I was playing around with Cookie Clicker too the other day.
I
So
have
what
a
did-
gift. I can understand their accent.
Yeah,
I
that's-
did game.earn like 9999999999999.
And you got 5 trillion quintillion cookies, right?
No, 5 nanosextillion.
Oh, nice. That's even better. Yeah, so what he did there, the guy that made the game, that's all JavaScript. The entire game's JavaScript. And he created this object called game. And then if you just do type in game, you'll see all these different functions and all these different like your the number of cookies you have. Everything is under that giant object, and you can just scroll through and look at them all. And then there's like earn is one of the methods, right, of that object, and you pass in however many cookies you want, and you can cheat. So yeah, I haven't played around with it too much, but I'm sure there's other ways of getting in there too. So it's not specifically JavaScript, but he is using JavaScript, if that makes sense. Cool. Yeah, I'm glad. I was thinking of showing you guys that, but I'm glad you already knew about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate you coming in and talking to us today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun, and like I said, I just love seeing that you guys are learning and pursuing this, and I hope you have a lot of fun with it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right, see you guys. Have a good one.